Welcome. This is a space to slow down and step into the inner landscape where everything begins. If this resonates with you, subscribe and walk this landscape with me. You might feel like you're constantly trying to fix yourself, trying to behave better, trying to think differently, trying to push past doubt, fear, old habits, and wondering why, no matter how much effort you apply, you keep ending up back in the same place. It can feel exhausting, like you're pruning, and yet the same growth keeps returning. Today I want to show you why that happens and why nothing is actually wrong with you. To do that, we're going to step into a forest that's just been disturbed. Imagine a woodland after collapse. A fire has passed through, or a storm has torn the canopy open. The ground looks bare, broken, chaotic. To the untrained eye, it might seem like the land is ruined, like something needs to be forced back into order. But the land doesn't panic. It doesn't scramble. It doesn't argue with what just happened. It simply returns to what it already holds. Beneath the ash and fallen branches, the soil remembers. Seeds buried years ago begin to respond. Roots that survived send out quiet signals, and without anyone directing it, a very specific forest begins to grow. Not a random one, not a hopeful one, a predictable one. Because the future of that forest was decided long before the disturbance. It was decided by the seed bank. Ecologists call this forest succession. After collapse, landscapes don't reinvent themselves, they reveal their defaults. If the soil is full of bramble seed, bramble returns. If birch and alder dominate the seed bank, they rise first. If oak was established deeply enough, oak eventually reclaims the canopy. The forest that grows is never a surprise to someone who understands what's already in the ground. And this is the part most people miss. The struggle on the surface is not what determines the outcome. The seed does. This is exactly how your inner life works. Your identity is the seed. Your self-concept is the soil. Your thoughts, habits, emotions, and behaviours are just visible growth. When you try to change your life by fighting behaviours alone, it's like pruning a forest while leaving the same seed bank untouched. You can cut things back again and again. You can make temporary progress, but the same growth will return, because it's what the ground knows how to produce. This is why effort alone often leads to frustration. You're not failing, you're just working at the wrong level. In the renewed world of these teachings, people learn something vital. Real change is never leaf level. It is always seed level. They stopped asking, how do I fix this behaviour? And started asking, what identity am I planting? Because once the seed is chosen, the rest unfolds automatically. A bramble doesn't wake up each day trying to be sharp and tangled. An oak doesn't rehearse being strong. They simply grow according to what they are. Most inner struggle comes from trying to grow a different forest without changing the seed. You might be planting self-doubt and hoping confidence appears. Planting scarcity and waiting for abundance. Planting an identity built on uncertainty and wondering why life feels unstable. The land would never expect oak from thistle seed. And yet, many people expect peace, certainty, and belonging while carrying an identity rooted in fear. Not because they chose it consciously, but because it was planted early, quietly, and left unquestioned. This is where the second law of living becomes practical. Tend the inside to shape the outside. In the old world, people tried to manage outcomes. In the renewed world, people learned to tend identity. They understood that once the inner default shifts, the outer world has no choice but to reorganize. The forest doesn't argue with the seed, it rearranges itself around it. It is the subtle but powerful shift this invites you into. Stop struggling with the canopy. Choose the seed. Stop asking, how do I stop feeling this way? And ask instead, who am I choosing to be now? Identity is not something you earn, it's something you assume. When the people of this world spoke the words, I am, they weren't motivating themselves, they were planting. This is why repeating behaviours without changing identity feels hollow. You can act confident for a while, but if the seed underneath says, I am unsure, the forest will eventually reflect that. You can practice calm techniques, but if the soil holds, I am unsafe, anxiety will regrow. The land always returns to what it recognizes. The good news is this: the land is obedient. Once you choose the seed, the struggle becomes unnecessary. You don't need to micromanage every thought. You don't need to fight every emotion. You don't need to constantly check whether it's working. Forests don't watch themselves grow. They respond to identity, season, and time. So do you. Here is the quiet realization this forest offers. You don't change by effort. You change by decision. Not a dramatic decision. Not a forceful one. A settled one. The kind that says, this is who I am now, and stops negotiating with the old ground. When people in this world rebuilt after collapse, they didn't obsess over perfection. They asked one simple question: what am I planting today? Because they knew tomorrow would answer honestly. So if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been exhausted by self-improvement, if you've been pruning the same growth again and again, pause. Look beneath the surface. Choose the seed, not the struggle. And let the forest do what it has always done. Grow what is true. Identity is the seed. Life is the forest. And once the seed is chosen, the rest is inevitable.